Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 494. I had the black pieces. My opponent played d4, and I went with knight f6, which is a very flexible move, can introduce a lot of systems, but in this case I was going for the Grunfeld, so that starts off with g6, which still is not giving away what your plan is entirely. You could still be playing a King's Indian or a modern type of defense. But after this move, knight c3 and then d4, this is the Grunfeld, d5 rather, putting the pawn up here in the center and allowing White can build up a big center by trading and then playing e4, kicking the knight. And that's a decent way to play. That's the main line. My opponent chooses the second choice here, knight f3, also quite a reasonable way to play. I go bishop g7. And he goes queen c2. Now queen c2 is a rare move. This line normally continues with queen to b3. Queen comes out here and harasses the pawn and forces an exchange or provokes an exchange. And the queen on c4, maybe it's a little bit out of play, but it's not a problem, and it's interesting for white. Other ways of playing this are just taking immediately, developing the bishop to g5, pawn to e3, shoring up the center, or bishop to f4, which he plays on the next move. So we get to see some of these bishop f4 ideas, I guess. Let's see, I castled here. And then he went bishop f4. And now during the game I was worried about this potential attack on c7. There's sometimes an idea in these cases. Not that arrow, this arrow. Taking advantage of this rook in the corner, which is trapped at the moment. But it turns out I don't have to worry about it. And the engine suggests I could even take or play c5. So c5 I thought was a funny move. That's not one I would have thought of here. It's not so common that black can boldly place those pawns in the center and really disrupt white so early in the game. Usually it takes a little while before he equalizes. But it seems like this queen c2 bishop f4 line is not the most accurate, and it actually allows c5 right here. And knight b5 is not even a good move in this position. You can develop the bishop with tempo, kick the queen around, and then develop the knight. And then the rook can come to c8, and so this knight coming to c7 here, or bishop to c7, is just not a problem. So that's all good for black. So I could have played more aggressively. I just played this quiet move, c6, shoring up the center and also controlling the b5 square. He goes e3. And nothing horrible has gone wrong. This is just a typical kind of opening advantage for white. So everything is fine so far. Bishop g4 maybe is not the best choice, but I wanted to get it out and try and get my get my knight into the game. And I didn't want it to be blocking the bishop, but I think that was a bad choice. I probably should have gone knight to d7 first. The knight can go from d7 to b6, or maybe over here to f8 and get back in the game in various ways, and then the bishop is free to move. So the problem is this move knight d2 leaves my bishop looking kind of silly out here. It's kind of looking at space, and then whenever it gets kicked back, it has to drop back along this diagonal. There's nowhere else for it to go. Once again, c5 though maybe is still fine for me. So maybe bishop g4 wasn't the real start of my downfall, but it starts with this exchange, and then I just retreat the bishop. Oh, cancel that. He played something different here. What did he play? Oh, bishop takes c4. Yeah, it sort of helps him develop a piece. And then I develop my bishop, drop my bishop back to d7. So that has wasted some time, and now white has a pretty significant edge here, and white keeps the edge for a while. So castling is good. I play b5 to kick his bishop. Cancel that. Which is an interesting move, but it does create a weakness of the c-pawn, which I have to worry about at some point. a5, trying to gain space and trap his bishop if allowed. He goes a3, and now knight a6. So at least I was able to develop my knight. The bishop and the pawn were blocking the other squares, but I was able to get my knight here, and now it can come back into the game via c7. So, but still, white is keeping a pretty good edge here. Knight c to e4. I think this is a mistake, knight c to e4. This just allows some exchanges, and that's not necessarily what white wants to do in this position. Let's see. Well, I didn't trade, though. I went knight to c7, and he goes knight c5. And so this is good. And since I didn't trade, given the opportunity, he now has sunk a knight into a good square. But I got a knight on a good square too, so it was kind of a trade. But here he's got a pretty good position, and he should just kind of sit on it, not allowing any more trades, but just playing bishop e5, bishop to g3, or what else? Bishop g5, knight takes d7. Okay, knight takes d7 is one of the moves, but you see knight takes d7 gives back some of that advantage. The knight maybe was just doing better sitting there than taking this bishop, which is kind of blocked in by my pawns here. But it does, on the other side, it keeps this c-pawn weak, and he can target that at some point. Anyway, he goes bishop e5 now. I go rook a to d8, and now he piles up on my c-pawn, so I just have to bring my rook back to defend. And he brings his knight forward to e4. And like the other knight e4 move, this is not the best move here. He should, once again, maybe just sit on the position a little bit with moves like bishop to a2, allowing the b-pawn to come forward, rook to d1, getting the rook in the game, or knight to f3. It's an interesting idea. Okay, but knight to e4 allows me to trade, and this time I take advantage of it, and I pretty much equalize after this. So knight takes the bishop off, and then he takes the knight. And I just drop my knight back to f6, kicking his queen, keeping his pawns restrained, and this is about an even game. He goes to d3 with the queen, which is a bit of a mistake. His queen is loose there, so there's a pin on the d-pawn, and the most accurate way to exploit that pin is the move c5, because c5 comes with the threat of playing c4 and forking those two pieces, so it's a pretty good move. He can't take because of the pin. Anyway, I played e5. I didn't spot that c5 idea. Still good. And let's see, he plays rook f to d1, defending his queen. And now I go ahead and take. And now he doesn't have to take back immediately. This pawn is now pinned in the other direction. He's got his queen and his rook piled up against the pawn, so he could play a move like a4 on the side. But he took back right away with the queen. And this helps me a little bit. Now I have an advantage, because he's loosened the pressure on the c-pawn, so I can just push it forward, and it comes with tempo against his pieces here. So c5, the rook has to move, and then c4, and I've kicked his... I've got a potential passed pawn here. I've got it a couple steps forward, and I've restricted his bishop somewhat, so it's not as well posted there, and it's mostly hitting onto targets that are pretty hard at this point. So all this was reasonable for me and keeping an edge for black. Okay, I play rook f to d8. I decided it'd be good to trade off one pair of rooks. The engine thinks he should take right away. This actually runs into a bit of a tactical problem when he plays rook c d1. And so I start out okay. I trade off the rook. This is pretty straightforward. I push the pawn forward. He takes. And right here, there's only one move, though, that gives us really great score, which I didn't think of. I just took back automatically. But, well, this idea here is hard to spot, I have to say. This pawn to c3 idea. Because it looks like he can just take it. I mean, it's a trade. My rook will be active. But, of course, it's the back rank weakness. I shouldn't say of course. What I'm exploiting here is the back rank weakness. So if he takes... Oh, okay, that's one of the moves. This is one of the lines I looked at earlier. If the bishop gets out of the way, he's in trouble. He's getting mated on the back rank. So what can he play here? He could bring his rook back to defend the bishop. Yeah, the engine is saying he could play b takes a5 and give up the bishop. That's certainly winning. So if he tries to hold on to his material, play f3. Well, that also loses the bishop. How can he save the bishop here? This way, maybe. I go the check, and the bishop comes back here. Yeah, this is the line I looked at. And momentarily, it might look like things are okay. But then knight e4 hits the rook and threatens to come in here and win the bishop. So the rook has to stay where it can guard the d2 square. So say rook to d3, maybe? Yeah, getting back to defend. And now I have time to grab this pawn, and this is pretty good. His pieces are tied up, and my pawn is threatening to come forward. So that would have required a lot of accurate moves, though. That's why I say I probably would not find that in a blitz game. Maybe not even in a slow game. But interesting to look at. It's an example of where you want to don't necessarily want to do the automatic recapture. Anyway, I did the recapture, but he makes a mistake with rook b6, and well, actually, every move here is a mistake for the next couple moves. I should push on with b3 is the most accurate way to play, and instead I pushed on with c3. I actually miscalculated something here. This really gives the advantage to really gives the advantage to white when I play that c3 move. What I was thinking was c3 was threatening to take on b2 and just queen, distract the bishop, and open up this file for the rook to deliver the mate on the back rank. And but the problem is after c3, he can just take the b pawn, and then he's protecting the b2 square. So that's just giving the advantage away. So I guess most other moves are still okay, but b3 makes the most sense, protecting. Rook a8 is interesting because it threatens the mate, and he has to respond to that. And then b3. Yeah, but b3 one way or another is something I need to play. Okay, so c3 was my big mistake here. And he plays this correctly. He takes. And then I bring my knight in to defend the pawn. I don't want to lose more material here, but I'm already just down a pawn. And all that white has to do to stay on the game is keep his rook on the b file so that it's guarding this b2 pawn. Instead, he went over here and attacked my knight, and that just loses because here I have the threat of queening, and I have the threat of mating on the back rank. What did he play? He played rook to d2, defending his bishop, but that doesn't work because I can distract the bishop with the queen and then mate with the rook. So a nice finish to that game, but definitely a lot of mistakes along the way. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.